hello guys, and welcome again to the channel for another standard deck tech with previews for the coming set, the Brothers War. So for this topic today, I've looked upon some of the white cards and specifically the soldier tribal cards that currently has been revealed from the set, and we'll check out what will be its look as we see the potential of having this tribal archetype now for this standard with the Brothers War set. So we look at first our card previews for today. We start with this one. This is Recruitment Officer. 1 to cast 2/1 from uncommon, but that is a good 1-drop. It has a good late game mana sink with this ability, wherein we can pay 3 in white, look at the top 4 cards of library, then reveal a creature card with mana value 3 or less from among them put in your hand. So as usual, it's a good way to recruit in a way, the sense that you can just get another creature card from the top 4 cards of the library and to replenish basically your board in the process. So a good mana sink, good 1-drop, and late game has this also an efficient ability in this. So next up, we also have this one is Siege Veteran. This is just revealed as hours ago, probably from this post. This is a 3-drop for 2/2. And beginning your combat or your turn, put up a summon counter on target creature you control. But the benefit here is that whenever another non-token soldier you control dies, you will create a 1/1 colorless soldier artifact creature token. So basically, this is replacing itself. But the bonus is that you get your creatures added with summon counter at the beginning of combat. And at the same time, you can also add it on this own. You get 3/3 if needed. And at the same time, it protects your creatures that has died by replaying by means of replacing them with this 1/1 colorless with at the same time soldier artifact creature token. So we'd still go with a tribal effect, and at the same time a good board source that can do protection against spot removals and other burn effects from your opponents. Now next, we also have this one is just another option for us because it's a new kind of a spot removal. It's like a delayed version of a spot removal wherein it will exile non-land permanent. As long as the permanent remains exiled, the owner may pay it, but just costs 2 more to cast. So basically just delaying it. For example, there's a relevant creature or planeswalker that the opponent may have. You can just exile it to have them cast again some turns later, but the cost of having 2 more might be very disadvantage at times against them. I will be considering this in a maybe board, but for the main deck of our build today, we're just going to look at some of the more efficient spot removals in the format. So for the next card, we have Tokasha's Welcome. This is also sort of a utility enchantment. It is a 2 for white, 3 to cast in total, that whenever 1 or more creatures with mana value 3 or less enters the battlefield under your control, you will draw a card. This ability only triggers once its turn. It's not really a version of a welcoming vampire, but the benefit here is that it is an enchantment, so it's like somewhat very hard to deal with. For my option here, I might have this in the sideboard because of this would look very beneficial against control or mid-range decks that has ways to mass removal your creatures. At the same time, you have Tokasha's Welcome to replenish your hand and also have more creatures drawn in the process. So for this part, I'll go with this another deck card preview in the trenches. This is a mythic card. This 1 white 3 mana in total, the same casting cost as your Glorious Anthem, and also the same effect. But it has this bonus ability wherein you can pay 5 in white, exile target non-land permanent you don't control until the end of the turn leaves the battlefield, and it's only activated as a sorcery and only once. So it's still a bonus effect. I'm not pretty sure why it's still mythic in that regard, but having this ability, the activate ability that can be countered usually by exiling target non-land permanent you can control, it's like a blink out effect, but having in the trenches also that gets your creature +1 is still a very relevant effect, especially in this tribal soldiers deck setup. So I think consider this in the main deck, since the bonus here can good mana sink in the late game if needed. But our purpose here is just to go with the pump effect of this Anthem of In the Trenches. Now we look at another soldier card. It is a new blue-white version, Azorius. It is Harbin Vanguard Aviator. It's a 1 white and blue legendary human soldier for 3-2 power and toughness. It has flying, but it's also another effect that whenever you attack with 5 or more soldiers, creatures you control gets +1/+1 again flying turn of turn. So basically, one of the more effect that could have to be very fatal as an alpha strike if ever your board state becomes stagnant. If your opponent has more blockers or maybe some ground creatures to defend, you can have Harbin to pump it up your creatures as long as you're attacking with 5 or more soldier creatures to get them +1/+1 against flying, basically evening out your opponent's ground creatures or grounders. So having this, we'll consider this now in the main deck, maybe 1 or 2 copies, which we'll also discuss later on in this video. So last but not the least is our main soldier land that is previewed here. This is Fortified Beachhead. It enters the battlefield, you may reveal a soldier card from your hand. It enters the battlefield tap unless you reveal a soldier card this turn or you control a soldier. So having this early on, you have to reveal a 1-drop, for example, to have this enters the battlefield untap. So it is also has this ability of not only fixing your mana for white or blue, but also have this 5 activation, pay 5 tap. It will have your soldiers control get +1/+1 until end turn. So it is automatic inclusion of 4 copies of this in the main to make sure that your deck could be fixed and also a good pump effect in the late game. So regarding this, let me show you now the deck tag for this. It was built on this website Architect beta only. We call this the Azorius Soldiers Bro standard deck tag for this. As you can see here, they still have no 5 cards less because of this has not yet registered to their database. But still, those cards only are the 4 copies of the Fortified Beachhead and the 1 copy of Siege Veteran. So only this, so that makes it up for the overall list. Let us now start with our 1-drops here. We have 4 Hopeful Initiate. This is not a soldier per se, but with its ability of training, that it has be able to go up and wide with 2 and 3 more personal counters. That has also the ability to destroy artifact enchantments. So I'll make it this consideration in the 1-drop slot of this deck. So 4 copies of this domain. It is now partnered with Recruitment Officer, as was discussed earlier. This is now a good 1-drop per se with a 2/1 power and also a good pump for looking at the top cards library. Next, we go with the 2-drops. We have a bunch of this. Let's basically 21 in total. We have 2 copies of Counter Commando. This is just a 2 to cast 3/1 flash, but the purpose here is not only become a swinging soldier of 3 power, but also a utility in a sense that you can destroy artifact or enchantments if needed. So 2 copies of that. We also have 2 copies of Denic. Remember that he is also a soldier in a sense. It's 2 cost 2/3 lifelink. It has a static ability wherein parts and graveyards can be targets of spells or abilities. It has a bonus also about Storm, wherein it becomes a 3/2 creature whenever one or more creature cards put into graveyards from anywhere, investigate. So when you trigger 1, so whenever you have to investigate, you have get a clue artifact creature token wherein with it has a 2 activation to draw a card. To sacrifice this artifact, draw a card, and then this is a good late game creature wherein you can just have another 3/2 flying if needed. So it's still a soldier card. It will still benefit the soldier anthem effects. So 2 copies in the main deck. Now we have Guardians of New Benalia. This is a 2 to cast 2/2 human soldier within list from Dominaria United. It has this ability that whenever it enlists creature, you can get to scry 2. But the bonus here is that whenever you discard a card, it becomes indestructible and you may tap it. You tap it. But the purpose here is that it can protect yourself basically by just exchange of a card. Maybe you can discard an extra planes or an extra creature to have this indestructible and maybe survive a lot more spot removals or destroy effects from your opponents. So 3 copies of those. We also have Harbin. So as discussed, I've included 2 copies of this, though we won't really need this early on. It is still a good attacker per se because of the flying, but won't really allow is to be killed by just 2 toughness effects like a Pele with Fire. So we make sure that we can get enough soldiers into play and then you just cast Harbin Vanguard Aviator and then attack for the win. So 2 copies of those in the main. Next, we also have 3 copies of Resolute Enforcement. This is from Dominaria United Uncommon. It enters the battlefield flash, but it has a creating effect of 1/1 white soldier creature token. It is a good 2-drop per se because you can basically do combat tricks with here. Along with the anthem effects, it can be still be beneficial to have because of more soldier effects. This basically becomes a 2/2/2 creatures if added with this anthem. So 3 copies of this in the main. We now have Sun Gold Sentinel. This is from Minute Hunt. It has this effect that when the battlefield attacks, exile up to 1 target creature, target card from graveyard. And also a bonus of Coven, wherein if the Coven is online, you can choose a color to have this Sentinel Hexproof on that color and can be blocked by the creatures of that color. So this ability basically is for decks that has maybe relying on graveyard effects. Maybe you can mention mono blue, wherein the more instant or sorceries are dumped in their graveyard, you can basically have them removed in order to them to be their power to be lesser, and at the same time making sure that you would not have any flashback effects or any graveyard shenanigans per se. So 2 copies in this in the main deck. Maybe I'll add 2 more in the sideboard if needed, depending on the metagame call in this deck. Now we go with the 2-drop again with Talia. I forgot that this card is still legal in standard. It is first strike with non-creature spells, cost 2 more to cast, and basically a good soldier in itself because it is very reliable that decks with mid-range decks that has playing 1 or more non-creature spells in their lineup, probably in their opening hand, would really delayed by this effect by Thalia. So 3 copies of this. We're not really sure that we'll draw multiple copies to avoid the legend rule. And then the 4 copies of Valiant Veteran. This is our last 2-drop in this deck, but this effect was basically a 2-2 cost 2/2 with the anthem of other soldiers you control gets +1/+1, and a good effect in the graveyard. You can pay 5 exile from the graveyard, put up some counter on a soldier you control. So this is basically instant activation at the benefit that you can have Veteran trade out early on in your combat, and then just activate this ability in your graveyard if needed for an Alpha Strike effect or maybe any other combat tricks if needed. Now 4 copies of that. Now for our 3 drops, we have Brutal Qatar. As you can see here, we have only 8 aside, and we have 4 creature under that mana cost. So Brutal Qatar is basic. That's exiling a creature the opponent controls, and the benefit also it becomes a werewolf with the first strike if in the night setup. But the purpose here is that we'll still maintain with a creature based lineup, but making sure that we have still some solid removals as per se, so that we can avoid those decks that basically go wide with their enchantments, for example, and just have Brutal Qatar deal with them and delay them in the process. So that is the lineup here. Now for our non-creature setup, again 2 copies of In the Trenches. As mentioned, added this in the main deck, and along with it is 2 copies of the Wedding Announcement. So the announcement is like a card draw in the creature source, though the tokens are not soldier per se because they are humans. But the bonus here is that once we're able to fit this out in the late game, you can have a solid art-team effect with the wedding festivity of having your creatures get +1/+1. So that is basically 4 in the art-team effects, plus 4 of this, so 8 in the main deck. So making sure that you have some solid curve and some damage dealt early on that are be more efficient. Now for our lands, I'm not sure if we'll go with the 4 island here, but I might cut this out more for, since we only see 4 copies of the blue whites, we'll try to add, since they are given Arcaways in the certain beach, we'll try to add more planes. We'll cut maybe 2 of these and then this one. So that's basic lands is 6 planes and 2 island with 1 Ottawa Swing City, the same, 1 Iganjo, Seat of the Empire, set of deserted beach and Arca Waste, and lastly the fortified beachhead for the mana fix of the soldiers. So that's the lineup for the lands. That's a total of 22 and 38 for the non-land spells. Our mana cost is basically about 2, straight up 2, but our color here is more of 15 and 11 only for blue. But the cost here is just basically 39 and only 4 for the blue creatures. So 2 mana cost, and lastly our deck tokens. So I think this is a good deck to consider once for Brothers War has hit the standard metagame. I'm not sure if we would have any other suggestion for this, or maybe we'll have more cards to preview here once the complete set for the Birds War is revealed. Maybe we can have some changes here and adjust the builds. But for now, we'll see to it. This is the probably the version 1 of the Azoria Soldiers deck for Brothers War Standard. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this video. If you like more content and for future updates for Magic the Gathering Brothers War, just click on subscribe and turn on the notification bells on the lower right portion of your screen or your mobile phone. So that's about it. Thank you for checking this video. Until the next upload, and see ya.